You want to know what a dead body really feels like? Dead weight. And that's the take they went with. Hunt Club was directed by Elizabeth Blake Thomas, who's done Just Swipe and a few other movies. Check out her IMDb page for the full listing of her work. And also written by John Saunders, no, not the journalist, and David Lipper, who also plays the character of Conrad in this movie and has acted in various other movies. Check out their respective IMDb pages for the full listing of their work. This stars Mina Savari as Cassandra. Yes, Mina Savari, who was in American Beauty, the American Pie movies, and other movies. Casper Van Dien as Carter. I guess they have to get Carter. Casper Van Dien, who's in Starship Troopers and Sleepy Hollow, and is a pretty good actor. Also, Will Peltz. No, I don't imagine that he has a collection of animal skins. He seems like a lovely individual. And also Mickey Rourke. At least what's left of him. Boy, kids, don't do drugs, don't drink, and don't be whatever the fuck is left of Mickey Rourke. My God, he looks like a clay figurine. It's astonishing. His face doesn't even look like it was ever human. So yeah, the plot of this movie, such as it is, there's a bunch of guys that gather women on an island. If they can survive for a particular time period, they win $100 grand and they can go home. Well, nobody's made it off the island and everything, but suddenly they find out that there are a couple women that they realize are not what they seem. And from there, they have to solve this mystery, but they can't because they know their history. Hunt Club Tales, woohoo. Okay, so basically take concepts, that you've seen in The Most Dangerous Game, Bloodlust, and Ready or Not, Here I Come. It was done better here. Boy, was it ever. Human Centipede them together and then put some of the worst editing and some of the worst fight scenes and just some of the most banal, bland, and horrible like gore effects that you've ever seen, at least in a purported decently budgeted movie. According to IMDb, this had a few million behind it. I imagine for the star power, but still, you couldn't have done better than this. And there was some talent as far as other movies that have been done and what other movies the cast and crew have been involved in. They've done better things than this. And what is this, a tax write-off? Did Uncorked Entertainment say, hey, do multiple takes and then make sure that you just use the worst take possible. Hey, I stumbled a bit. Oh, I was sort of looking at the camera. Should we cut? No, let's keep rolling. Really? Why? How? How was this fucking movie made? How was this movie? This was so terrible. I'm sorry. This was terrible. This was subjectively terrible. And taken as a comedy, you might be able to laugh at. Unfortunately, this movie plays it straight. Which, yes, there's a serious concept here. And you could have some fun with it. Or you could just do what they did in Hunt Club and make it like every single character seems like they just recently got out of a coma about 20 or 30 years after they went under, and they're like, hey, we don't know how to act human, and we don't really have the use of our legs and everything, and let's do these fight scenes, these choreography scenes where it doesn't even look like anybody's hitting each other, and the blood effects are terrible. The blood effects are straight out of 1960s Italian movies, just without being, kind of silly red. It's not simply red, it's silly red. This was terrible. I'm sorry. This was terrible. It's on Amazon Prime if you want to check it out. I think it's on Tubi. Give it a shot. Maybe you'll laugh. I laughed a few times at it, but I'm just thinking, Mina Savari, Casper Van Dien, and fuck Mickey Rourke. I don't give a good goddamn about that guy. But those two particular actors, how? Just how? Everybody needs work. I get it, but Jesus Christ, this was embarrassing. Absolutely embarrassing to watch. So yeah, there's a little bit of a backstory. None of the characters really have a lot of stuff fleshed out. I mean, you get bits and pieces of a story. You get some implied stuff that just gets totally dropped. And masculine, and women good, men bad. Which, yeah, women should be treated equal, obviously. And had that been done in a better movie, and this is almost as heavy-handed as Black Christmas 2019, except that one was worse. That one was a lot worse because that got a theatrical release. This just got released to streaming. And that movie was just absolutely terrible. This one is very, very bad. Really, really bad. This may end up being on my worst movies of the year list because I was appalled by how terrible this was. I look forward to what other projects the writers and the director do, because it can only go up from here. Just, again, if it was satire, it wasn't very good satire. The serious nature of it, I was laughing too goddamn much. Everybody seemed like they were sleepwalking through the goddamn thing. Just, Jesus fucking Christ. I'm going to get into spoilers here. Again, it's on Amazon Prime. It's on Tubi. Check it out if you want. Spoilers really ain't going to take very fucking long, though, so do not worry. 3, 2, 1, and spoilers. Okay, so Carter basically wants to get his son Jackson to be a man. Because he tells a story during a very, 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 very lengthy campfire story scene with a whole bunch of his other hunter friends that he found a corset in his son's closet, implying that his son may be a crossdresser. Maybe not gay, because he tries to kiss Mina Savari at one point. Who could blame him? Boy, howdy. But, yeah, don't treat your kid like that. Let your kid be them. Let them be themselves. Don't say they have to be a man or they have to do this or whatever. But the problem is it's so over the top, and Casper Van Dien, you could tell, is almost doing this stuff through gritted teeth. And he's a good actor. But we go back to the beginning, which is always a good place to start. Mina Savari is being, targeted by some guys. And then somebody shows up, Maya Stoyan, who, good lord, she looks great. She plays Tessa, and it turns out that, well, her and Cassandra get together. And then we go to a diner scene. Casper Van Dien and Will Peltz are talking, and he's going to go on his first hunt. And then what ends up happening is, because Mina Savari cuddles up, gets really, really close to Jackson, and then they make it seem like Tessa's blowing up, and oh, she's this controlling girlfriend, and it turns out it's all a ruse. Not that you couldn't tell that, because, like, one little bit of this dialogue will just make you want to basically eat glass. I'm sorry, but, well, the writers prove that they have done better things in the past. This must have just been something where they're like, okay, I'll hack this out and you'll pay me some money. Because they have talent, and this was not a good use of their talent. And maybe there was a better movie hidden here. Maybe there was. There was a germ of a good, concept, but it was just horribly done. Put in a blender, mixed with bullshit, and served to us. So, basically, there's a bunch of girls kept in a cabin as sex slaves and also being hunted, and if they survive, then they can be used as sex slaves again. There's Lexi, played by Jessica Belkin, who looks familiar. I'm trying to think about what I've seen her in, but she is a young, fancy-free one, and it's the idea of getting a cash prize, and yeah, she ends up getting kind of tag-teamed by a couple guys, and that's gross. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that to anybody. Just what the fuck? What the fuck? The action scenes are terrible. The fight scenes are terrible. Nobody's making contact. None of the stuff's going on. None of the stuff is going on, at least in this universe. Maybe an alternate universe where human contact actually is going to lead to death, so you have to make sure you don't actually hit anybody, or maybe because they don't want to bother affording good editing equipment. Tessa shows up and basically dispatches some guys, and meanwhile, Cassandra is flirting with Jackson, and then Jackson tries to kiss her, so basically, whatever. He is what he is who he is. And then Cassandra mentions that her daughter is missing. Gee, I wonder what happened to her daughter. Huh. And then she talks about Tessa being her avenging angel and the daughter of Artemis. Or Armitius. Basically, they go back to Greek god stuff. That's just what I'm going to say right there. Goddess of the hunt. The Mike Hunt. And then she ends up getting captured. Tessa arrives 40 minutes in, dispatches a couple guys, and no contact at all during that fight. It was hilarious. It was incredible. So her and this one girl named Lacey go off. Lacey has made a weapon out of a bone from this food, and she's going to stab the next person that she sees from the hunt. Basically one of the hunters. And she manages to get Jackson. Well, then she gets impaled by a stick thing, spiked stick branch deal. There's CGI flies at one point when Cassandra finds a whole bunch of bodies and then finds the grave of her basically her dead daughter's bracelet right there, and she's all upset. Then Tessa shows up and frees her. And meanwhile, there are still girls in the barn. Mickey Rourke has obviously drank himself into a stupor, and there's a lot of fake blood. They kill a whole bunch of guys, and that's what Mia Savari says. You want to know what a dead body really feels like? Snaps his neck. Dead. Wait. I'm not kidding. That is about as much enthusiasm as she had for that, and whew, oh boy, this dialogue was spicy. As spicy as white bread left out in the sun. So, and I'm sorry, if you're eating white bread left out in the sun, you got other issues. So, meanwhile, Lexi is still being pinned down and taken advantage of, and don't do that. Don't do that shit. Casper Van Dien's trying to figure out what the hell's going on. There's a bunch of monitors stacked up there as far as a live streaming thing with TVs that were from about the the early 90s, if not the late 80s. And then there's a guy taking a piss, and Tessa cuts off his dick. They go fight Mickey Rourke. Mickey Rourke gets shot in the leg, and then he was the one that killed Cassandra's daughter. So she beats the shit out of him, slashes his throat. And this would be great revenge if you gave a goddamn shit about any of the characters, but you don't, because there aren't any characters. And then she gets in a fight with Casper Van Dien's Carter, gets knocked out. She decided to get Carter. Haha, you already used that. And Lexi gets freed, and then the other guy gets tied down. She kills him off camera. And then a little bit earlier, actually, it was implied when Jackson was captured that Cassandra shot him. She didn't shoot him, though, because she ends up finding Casper Van Dien, or pinning him down, taking him to the barn. And the two girls that remain, the two redheads, that were really beautiful, by the way, took turns beating them up. They took the money. No, we're hunters, not bounty hunters. You can take the $100,000 that was sitting here in crisp bills out of nowhere, Cinderella story. And they kill Carter, and then it's implied that they're going to do a sequel. Jackson's alive, by the way, and takes him away and takes him back to civilization. This movie does not deserve to be seen by civilization. I'm sorry. I hope that everybody else grows and does bigger and better projects, but this was terrible. This movie needs to be hidden, burned possibly, immolated, in front of God and everybody. Yeah, it gets an F. God, this is terrible. Not even funny. Not even horrifying. Horrifying that got made. So yeah, F. Agree, disagree, what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Retlin. I'll see you soon.